All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Life After App-V, Modern App Delivery with FlexApp and ProfileUnity 6.9.5. I am Andrew with Liquidware, and we're so glad to have you all here. Today, we'll cover how to manage App-V packages without App-V server, explore new features, and modernize app delivery across any Windows environment. Joining us from the Liquidware team are Jason Mattox, our CTO, and Jason E. Smith, VP of Alliances and Product Marketing. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat or the Q&A at any time. And a little bit of quick housekeeping. This session is being recorded and we'll share the recording and additional resources in our follow-up after the webinar. With that, I'll pass it over to Jason E. Smith to get us started.
Thanks, Andrew, and I am happy to be doing this webinar with Jason Mattox. Haven't done one with Jason in a while, and this will be a good one. Jason, being our CTO, leads our technology development here at Liquidware. Life After App-V. So April 14th just happened, about a week ago or so, and now organizations that have App-V are finding that it's partial end of life. So we'll speak more about that today. So we're glad to be hosting this today. I always get started by recapping a little bit about Liquidware. We have the industry's only digital workspace solution suite that cuts across all ways that you deliver Windows, right? Virtual, cloud, and physical. You might find some tools embedded in some of the solution stacks from Citrix or Omnissa that really apply mostly to their solutions, but Liquidware manages the digital workspace solution experience across every way you deliver Windows. Citrix, Omnissa, so virtual, cloud, physical, laptop, offline, it does not matter. These solutions that you see in front of you keep up with the user's persona and make sure that it moves from desktop to desktop, applications that do the same, and then knowing the user experience. More specifically, I'll go through these really quick. I'm going to skip the first one because that's where we're going to spend most of today's webinar on. I'll come back to that. The user and app management portion of ProfileUnity delivers the comprehensive user and application settings across any Windows desktop. So you can literally log off of one workspace experience, and when the user's under management, they log on to the second one, and it is a very seamless flow, even when you switch operating system versions. So people often ask us how we compare to FSLogix, right? FSLogix is tied to one OS, and we can work with it to make up for that shortcoming in the FSLogix. Also, we go beyond the profile. We have policy management settings in there that everything that unifies the entire profile experience, not just the profile itself, but policy management, access to user-authored data, security settings within the HKLM keys and others. ProfileUnity manages that and also helps you manage applications. So we'll touch on some of that today in that solution because we can actually still deploy App-V packages now that App-V server is end of life. Stratosphere gives you in-depth digital experience monitoring and optimization across any of these desktops. So it's very handy when you are comparing desktop to desktop and you're trying to establish what is the best workspace for this user. Is it a cloud-based desktop? Is it Windows 365? Is it AVD? Is it their endpoint, their physical endpoint, their Windows experience? And Stratosphere can tell you that, but it can also diagnose errors that are occurring on that desktop that are impacting digital employee experience very quickly. If there's a metric that you could think of that you would ask, can Stratosphere do that? The answer almost always is going to be yes, because it's built on literally decades of knowledge and request from the end user computing industry. The real-time solution that we have that complements that is known as command control. And it gives you the ability to reach out and touch someone. So for help desk operations and doing kit glove support for VIPs and executives, that's your go-to solution there. It is real time what's going on a desktop, being able to look at the processes running on that desktop. You can terminate processes. You can run a quick script. And if you need to, you can take over with the industry's best remote control solution that we have there. We've got a couple of different ways of you opting into the remote control. So there is one that for compliance reasons, I am certain will be compatible with your environment for security. That's our entire solution suite. And when our customers are running all of these, they're able to seamlessly support and move users from one platform to the next. The modern app delivery piece is the one I wanted to come back to with FlexApp because it provides seamless app delivery across any type of Windows desktop, and being able to package an app one time and deliver it, fulfilling the promise of what MSIX was supposed to be, fulfilling the extended way of delivering applications in there, that App-V is no longer innovated and no longer features being added and partial end of life. That is FlexApp with the most innovative way to deliver that. So we'll spend some time there with FlexApp. We'll mention FlexApp 1 as well. The subject of today's webinar was about the end of life of App-V. And we have a brand new version of ProfileUnity and FlexApp coming out very soon, within the next couple of weeks here, that include the following new features. So some of those are directly able to help and assist the industry with the end of life of partial end of life of App-V. So announced today on this webinar, we'll announce it later in a press release, FlexApp Sandbox mode. FlexApp delivers applications that look very native to the OS. Now we are taking that a step forward, and we are isolating an optional version of that to have it run in an optional isolated Windows sandbox mode. We'll explain that a little bit further, but it takes care of those edge use cases where isolation is still needed. Non-isolated way of running apps is far superior, and that's what FlexApp has always done and will continue to do. But this is an optional mode to be able to fully isolate applications. Modern platform architecture, we are doing an upgrade to .NET Core for performance security and future cloud readiness. Advanced application control, we have new combined allow and deny policies with full Windows event logging for auditing and compliance, which we are high on the list with our customers and our three-letter agencies where we run in the federal government. Simplified deployment, single file installer design for modern management tools like Intune and SCCM applies now to FlexApp. So this is a single file installer that can do that. It applies to FlexApp and more, Jason?
Yeah, it applies to the whole ProfileUnity client and FlexApp. So you have an MSI or an EXE based on your use case for Intune, SCCM, or any other automation solution you've got to install software.
Thanks for the clarity on that. And the stronger security by default. You want to touch on that one too?
Yeah, so the configuration file has generally been clear text in the past. There's not much, PII or EII in there today. But in the event that there is any, we've encrypted this file by default to enhance comfortability and InfoSec requirements in our customers.
Great. And these are just the top features and updates coming. There are more than this in 6.9.5. They'll be out in a couple of weeks. So look forward to seeing that shortly, but you'll get a sneak preview of some of this today, especially in the area of the sandbox mode. So App-V server is indeed end of life. So how are you going to deploy your App-V packages if you wanted to even keep doing that? The App-V sequencer, meaning like the packager, the way that you make them an App-V package, is in extended support. It's legacy tech. Microsoft has just about said as much. There's no innovation happening there. And the App-V client is also in that same legacy tech extended support mode. So what does it mean that App-V server is end of life? To deploy App-V server packages, you must get pretty innovative to do that. You have to rely on third parties to deploy your App-V packages. Our Azure App Attach actually can deploy App-V. They've built that in there. FlexApp's also an Azure App Attach, but they can continue to deploy that for environments that are for AVD, for example, and it's exclusive in that area. So that's not an option for other desktop methods. But ProfileUnity, as you'll see today, is the perfect replacement for App-V server. And we're not talking about FlexApp here in this instance. If you want to keep running App-V packages, you can indeed do that, and you can deploy them faster and better than ever before with ProfileUnity. That's because we have in-depth context-aware filters that go beyond anything that was available for Microsoft. Now, this has been available for quite a few versions with ProfileUnity, but we'll show a demonstration of that today as well. Andrew, do we have a question come in? I think I saw something come in up at the...
I see. How big applications can single files hold?
Yeah, that question's a Well, so the original comment in the previous slides are talking about the installer and the agents needed to run ProfileUnity FlexApp. FlexApp 1 is a technology that encapsulates applications into a single binary. Windows has a limit of 4 gig, but we've set up a secondary file that's automatically maintained and created with the FlexApp 1 in the event the application compresses down to larger than 4 gig, which like an AutoCAD would or something like that. So there'll be a main engine binary and then a corresponding file that can exceed the 4 gig requirement from Windows limitation.
Was there a second question, Andrew?
I am seeing, how does ProfileUnity 6.9.5 handle profile portability across different Windows versions?
Yeah, so the way it handles across different Windows versions, with our experience in EUC, decades and decades, we understand parts of the profile that work across operating systems. So we have templates built in the system that already reconcile the pieces and parts. And the majority of the profile is able to travel all the way from XP all the way up to, Windows 11. So the templates are set out of the box for those small areas of Windows that are incompatible with each other. Most areas are compatible. Microsoft in the past has just never bothered to upgrade portions of those. Say you want to go from a server OS to a desktop OS or vice versa, we can definitely help you do that. All the templates are built out of the box with decades of experience on what's compatible and what's not based on the OS.
Thanks. Thanks for the questions, and we'll be glad to pause there now and then and take some of those. Thanks, Andrew.
Mhm.
So App-V servers had a great run. If you see the headstone representative of that, 20 years it's been around. Unbelievable. It was actually end of life a few years ago, but then they've extended it a bit, and now it's really the end of life was announced rather, and what they extended was the sequencer and the client. But App-V started out as a company called Softricity, had a great run. So funny enough, and I'm going to do a little bit of a throwback here in the next week or so, as I've got a surprise coming from some of the founders that one of the founders that were involved with Softricity, and so look for that in our social media, and you'll see a little bit more about the history there. But App-V was a company that Microsoft acquired in 2006. Called Softricity, and the technology was called SoftGrid at the time. Let's look at some of the things they claimed to do, even then, when they were acquired. Reduce application management costs. That was the headline. If you can go back to the Wayback Machine and look at their website, which is a little exercise that I did for fun, that was some of the things that they were marketing actively at the time. In application conflicts and regression testing, and no more DLL hell if you had applications conflicting with each other. And this was a real thing that was happening in the industry, is that DLLs being similar name and size were conflicting in the OS, and there was no way around that. And sometimes that's DLLs from separate vendors even that was happening that way. So it helped even in running native applications in there. Accelerate application availability. This is something they talked about because applications could simply come in and be streamed into an environment. So they said shorter time to production. Can you believe 20 years later, we're talking about similar things here? Consolidate Citrix terminals and terminal servers, as we called them then. Fewer dedicated per department servers for session-based computing. This is really simplifying image management is what we didn't call it back then. But also simplify OS migration and patching because the image is left to just those things. So focus on the apps and leaving OS management updates separate. They didn't say those specific words, but they did say simplify OS migration and patching. And it's interesting to look at that because if we talk about where we are today, we're still talking about reducing application management costs. We're still talking about ending application conflicts in some cases, running side-by-side apps. And that challenge has been reduced over the years because of things being solved in the industry and different versions of the OS looking at applications in a different way. But it's still relevant in edge use cases. Accelerate application availability. We're doing that today with the technology that we're using. Shorter time to production, same. Have applications immediately there at startup. Regardless, even if they haven't been installed. Consolidate Citrix and terminal servers. We know we're call them that today, but we're doing that. Consolidating server-based computing, which is like modern terms would be multi-session computing with ABD, and with XenApp, as it was called, and virtual apps and server is what Citrix calls it today. Fewer dedicated per department. Now you can just have the apps come in for unique users. Simplify OS migration and patching. Of course, we still talk about that today with the technology we deliver with FlexApp, focusing on the apps, leaving the OS management separate. So really just shocking when you think about it. 20 years later, we're talking about solving some of the same things that are around. A lot of people didn't think that Windows apps probably would still be around this many years later, but indeed still are. So let's talk about the things that have evolved even over time that make this more important than ever to keep your Windows apps out of the OS whenever possible. The digital workplace is more dynamic than ever. It's ever changing. Device sprawl remains a big thing. I mean, think about how many Windows desktop experiences you have. Those of you listening to this call, I have a couple, right? I've got this desktop that I'm on right now that I'm using for the webinar. I've got this laptop that's here behind me, and yet I have another machine that I use when I travel. And some of these are for testing purposes or different things, but all of them are, for my use case, are corporately managed. So you've got more devices than ever. And then you couple in, your other mobile devices where you may have a Citrix session or an AVD session or accessing a Windows 365 PC. And sometimes 3 devices may be small for an organization. Slow app deployment. Packaging takes a lot of time, especially for multiple applications, and delay in productivity. Packaging them up even in a traditional way to get them ready for a Windows machine to consume from Intune, much less getting them into something like App-V. Base image overload, managing dozens of images across environments adds complexity. We still see this as a big challenge in the industry, and it's grown. Fragmented workspaces, just like I talked about, mandates that you have a unified application delivery model, because you're troubleshooting not only that many users, but that many machines. Is the app that they need on that machine running when they need it, just in time, and immediately when they log in? And obviously the high cost of device loss. If you're putting actual applications and installing them on every machine, and then there's a risk of data being accessed from someone that gets access to that machine, you can have tens of thousands of dollars of loss equated per user when that happens. And then one of the last bullets is that legacy solutions like App-V is obviously now end of life. And there's not any new innovation in those, yet the need is still there, bigger than ever. While we have SaaS applications coming online, right, that might not need this technology, Windows applications are not going away. Many organizations have most large organizations have over 300 something Windows applications still in productions. And that's not 300 installation versions of it. That's 300 unique applications or more for a large organization. So the need is still there. When you compare FlexApp and ProfileUnity against something like Microsoft App-V, you have, as I said, a modern way of doing this and delivering the applications very quickly. An easy and intuitive UI. We no longer call this thing a sequencer. It's an automatic packaging machine that can plow through tons of applications over a weekend and have them ready to go. We also have manual packaging in there where you can walk through a next, and finish, but we've even automated that process too. We have micro isolation that still takes care of some of the things like DLL conflicts, anything beyond knowing which applications package first, chicken and egg scenario. And then we have what we'll show today is FlexApp Sandbox mode. So full applications. I know that has the wrong year in it. The App-V server dependency is not there. FlexApp is really unique. There's no server points of contention online that are man in the middle to get these applications up and running. You simply have these applications coming right down to the endpoint and being able to launch immediately. The context awareness that you have when coupled with our user management is unparalleled in the industry, and the power that you get when it's coupled in that area with HKLM capabilities to manage those machines for security rights and other things are unparalleled. Enterprise ready, right out of the gate. security built in. We can make any application an OAuth application with just a few clicks without having to involve anything from third parties or extra development time. And the application compatibility for this tech remains extremely high, much higher than MSIX, because MSIX is not coming from vendors natively. We can take 90-something% applications, and 100% of your applications may be able to be FlexApped. That's right. Many of our customers have been able to get 100% of the applications that they want to get FlexApp very quickly. Very competitive in the way that we provide this technology to any Windows environment. So the thing that we're solving out there, the long-standing problem in the industry we touched on earlier, is taking applications and assembling them dynamically when a user logs on. The old model up at the top would be the way that is illustrated there, with multiple departments having their own basically server in a Citrix or terminal services or RDS environment, as we call them now. And then now in AVD, multi-session computing, you would have to have unique servers running these, whereas below you have the applications that are dynamically assembled right at logon, and they're provided in their out of the gate, right at boot time or login time, or you can have them come in after the session on demand with a stub icon. And we innovated that technology, on demand technology. So it is a drastically different way to manage apps. You can roll these out through FlexApp 1 with Intune, but we're even quicker without Intune. Immediate, right at logon, no eventual state in there. A FlexApp looks like it is native to the OS. And we don't lose this. Now, keep in mind what I'm about to describe. We don't lose this functionality even with our sandbox mode, which we'll show here in a moment. Traditional software installation would put the files all over the system. Intune does that. Intune installs the files out there, and they are tattooing the system files, system32, other files, program data, the registry, other things permanently in some cases get tattooed with these apps, even when you uninstall them. There are children left behind. There are pieces of the app left behind, either by mistake or by design of the original vendor. And this contributes to Windows rot over time. Imagine services and ghost services that may continue to run after you uninstall an application. That's the worst of it. But there is actually a lot of proprietary things that are still in there, and security risks that may still be in there for the way that app was used that are left in the OS sometimes, even in there. So FlexApp is drastically different. It knows where the file should be in the OS, but they're not physically there. They are containerized on a VHDX. That's the Microsoft system of a virtual hard disk, and a filter driver makes them look and appear as if they are in those areas, and they're not really there. So as a result, applications get turned on like a light switch and get turned off like a light switch. There's nothing to uninstall, and they're removed in their entirety when that happens. And then you can manage the profile system and clean that up separately for your profile system of choice, including our FlexApp, our ProfileUnity technology. Let's talk about FlexApp Sandbox mode next, and that is the brand new technology we are announcing with the version of 6.9.5 in FlexApp. It's an optional isolation, is what we're doing here, and Jason, feel free to elaborate on these, since you are the brain child of this technology.
Yeah, I can jump in. So the OS level isolation using the hypervisor tech, we're using applications in the Windows Sandbox, those two areas. And the nice thing about leveraging the Windows Sandbox is, it's non-persistent in nature. It destroys itself at log off. And it's really flexible in that way. And what's really neat about using this technology is we have everything we need, because it is a mini Windows operating system at the end of the day. And so because of that, our compatibility is not lost. That is a huge thing when you look at the compatibility line here, is that is not lost. Everything we need to install services, drivers, fonts, printers, all of those things are available and function within the sandbox. So it's literally just, as you'll see in the demo in a little bit, It's a checkbox whether you want to isolate the application in the sandbox or not. It's that simple. The applications, you could have two versions of the same applications. You could run, different applications isolated, multiple applications isolated at one time within the same sandbox. And so again, no packaging is required, no repackaging is required. The same packaging effort you went through to package the application, which we'll show as well, is available when you deliver it as an isolated sandbox mode at the end of the day. So we're really excited about the compatibility it's driven, and you'll see a demo of how it works. If you've used the Windows Sandbox, it's a full desktop. You get a start menu, but you'll see how we've automated it. Basically, we're publishing the application like a published app, like Remote App or like Zen App would, from the sandbox into the host up or operating system, whether that's a virtual machine, AVD, a physical laptop with FlexApp One or Intune or with ProU Client. No matter how that's being delivered, we're leveraging and automating the user experience. The user does not know the Windows Sandbox is even involved in this delivery.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that right there because even a lot of people right now are thinking, what is this local hypervisor? So I'm launching another VM and I'm going to see Windows? No, not going to see a separate version of Windows, right? You're going to see an application launch that's leveraging that behind the scenes. And so it's a very seamless experience when you launch something, as you'll see here shortly. We illustrate this with this graphic here on this slide. Jason, if you'd like to talk them through that too. This is the Windows sandbox illustrated here in the middle of the screen that the user would not see that virtual machine running. They would just see the performance of that FlexApp as if it were a native app in the environment.
Yeah, exactly. So the Windows Sandbox is hidden behind it's a single kind of binary within the host operating system. So when you talk about, full isolation, one binary cannot talk to another. So we're literally taking that application, put it into a secure sandbox. It's unable to talk to the main host operating system or main host, applications. And that's why, two applications, whether the application is natively installed or a Flex app in the host operating system or delivered in the sandbox isolation mode, they cannot talk to each other, cannot conflict. Now, can we get on the network? Yes. Can we get to network file shares, OneDrives of the user? Yes, all those things work. It's a seamless user experience when it comes to accessing my home share, my OneDrive, and all of those things. It's hosted by Windows natively. It's supported on AVD. It's supported on physical and virtual devices. We are sharing the host resources when we do this. So you get those copy and paste, you get those profile access. We even went through and persist user authored changes, whether that's a preference inside of the application that's in the sandbox. Those preferences are then stored in the local profile on the host operating system so that then they can be swept by whatever profile management tool you have, whether it's FS Logics, ProfileUnity Profile Disk, ProfileUnity Portability. Those are swept and then restored. And when the isolated application comes back up, your preferences are preserved. And we would do our own selves a disservice if we didn't persist the persona. That's how this product started. The technology started as a persona tool and technology back in the day. I don't know if I missed anything there, Smith.
No, it's great. I think you did cover that there's certain parts of it that are opened up with sharing resources from the host, right?
Yeah, I did. With accessing, say, user files, copy and paste,
Printer.
screenshots, high fidelity printers. You could watch YouTube videos, training videos through it as well. The frame rate is really high because there technically is a protocol that's being pumped in from the sandbox into the host operating system, but it's all local on the host. It's not over the network or anything, so the performance is fantastic.
Man, this caused a lot of questions, and rightfully so. This is a new technology from us. And so FlexApp Core is still out there, and it's still the main way of rolling out applications for the majority of your use cases. But this is the edge use case that will fully isolate an app. So I'm going to go through some of these questions really quick, and I'll give them to you to answer. Oscar, and I'll use people's first name here. He says, can you share the Sandbox app with other non-Sandbox FlexApp applications?
So it's just a checkbox whether the app is isolated or not. So you can send a FlexApp One to people. A FlexApp would work isolated or not.
But can it communicate with another FlexApp application that's not sandboxed?
Oh,
I think
no,
maybe, yeah.
yeah, it would not be able to because it's completely isolated within inside that process. And so it's not able to get outside that process outside of network activity, browsing the internet, file shares, stuff like that. And the network activity can be turned, actually can't be turned off, but the network activity is available. So, but no, it cannot talk. You would put that application's native or as a Flex app if you wanted them to communicate, or you'd put them both in the sandbox if they needed to communicate.
Great.
Put it that way.
Richard is asking a question that we're about to cover, so I'll mention it, but I'll say, do we have a way of migrating older apps to FlexApp like App-V? And he asked like a snapshot tech. It's just as good as and just as fast as a snapshot tech in a lot of ways. Richard, you'll see it in just a moment. I'm going to talk about ways that you can transition from App-V, and you can also package up an app faster natively if you did not want to convert the App-V, but we'll demonstrate that in a moment. Robin says, what does launching a background sandbox do for performance?
Yeah, there could be a performance hit there. It's a pretty small virtual machine. It's pretty lean. If you ever run it on your laptop, it comes up, within 7 seconds. It's really quick. So I think there will be some hit. We do things to make the end user experience the best. I think that most users won't be opening a sandbox application as the very first thing that they do. They're probably going to open email and open their browser and then get to the app side of it. So we do pre-warm things and get things warmed up ahead of time. Depending on the hardware, it could take some seconds to a larger amount of seconds, depending on the infrastructure and the hardware underneath. But performance is pretty good. It's pretty acceptable. Again, most applications don't need isolation. We have 90% compatibility rate, but sometimes you have those edge cases and minority applications that you need to isolate off, and that's really what this is for.
All right, we're going to keep moving. Thanks for the questions, and we want to make sure we get to show off those demos. So I'll cover this one real quick. Why FlexApp? Why do people choose it? Applications attached, they don't install. Microsoft MSIX and App Attach, that technology, specifically MSIX, it's a good tech, but it would be better if the vendors of the world support it, but they don't. On average, the vendors of the world do not offer their packages up in MSIX. Then you have to convert them, and that's where the challenge comes. FlexApp is compatible even with the native core FlexApp with 90 to 100% of your applications. And that compatibility only grows when you're able to isolate a couple of edge use cases in there to very close, more often to the 100% mark. 4 ways to transition, and this is where we'll mention some of the ways you can convert. Use FlexApp to quickly package up an app. If it did not need application isolation in the first place with App-V, FlexApp's going to handle that most of the time just fine. You run it through and quickly package it, and then you can deploy it as a native FlexApp. We have automated packaging that can plow through, as I said, dozens of those applications over a weekend, and you'll have them ready to go on a Monday morning. And even our manual packaging process is next finish, same as installing an app. You can optionally continue to deploy App-V packages with ProfileUnity is another way to transition, because after all, the sequencer and the packager are still around. If you want to keep running App-V, you can, and ProfileUnity can help you do that since server is dead. You can quickly convert existing App-V packages over to FlexApp. You'll see a demonstration of that in a moment. And you can lastly use the FlexApp Sandbox. Any remaining use cases can use that technology we just discussed. All right, we're going to start to go through these to make sure we have ample time. This particular one, Jason, is about, I believe it's about
the level set of FlexApp, right? Yep.
Converting now. Well, we'll see.
Creating a FileZilla application.
All right.
So in this video, we're kind of level setting that we're creating a FlexApp and how easy it is to create a FlexApp. And so a lot of different options here for conversion as well. But we're going to go in and convert of a FileZilla into a FlexApp 1 here. And so we'll see that. Oh, an App-V. Okay. We're converting App-V into a FlexApp. Sorry about that demo. So we're converting this App-V.
Yeah, no, we'll pause for a second. So we'll make sure that everybody sees it as that this is the video and the demonstration of converting an App-V package into FlexApp. So now we're running.
Yeah, so we can do mass conversions of app-Vs into a FlexApp or a single one. What's really nice about what we've done here is we also don't know when these app-Vs were created originally, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago even. And so we do clean them up automatically. We do take things out of them that we know that when you deliver an app-V or an isolated application into a layering technology, you end up where there could be things that the operating system doesn't like, but it didn't matter before because it was isolated away from the operating system. And so we do clean up the packages. We don't want garbage in, garbage out. And so they do get cleaned up, and likely the application is going to work fine. Our customers have cited high success rates because if you look at that version on the left-hand side of that packaging console screen, it's 687. And so we've had this technology out for a while and refined it over the years, and customers have reported high success rates of AppV conversions and not having to repackage applications. So we're pretty excited and happy about where that's gone. And even the later versions of 687 we've enhanced, and even our latest version of 695 we added more functionality as well for AppV conversions. So these come in pretty simply.
Yep. Oftentimes we show a smaller application, so it keeps the conversation pretty tight here. So we can do complicated applications with FlexApp. We've even been known to do Epic, which is one of the largest applications, I guess, in the world and that healthcare uses. So just because you're seeing FileZilla here doesn't limit us in any way. Makes for a quick demo. All right. The next one here is
This is assignments, FVs.
Yep, taking AppV, replacing AppV server.
Yep. So if you have existing AppVs that you want to assign to users, you can come into a ProfileUnity console configuration. And in that configuration, we have the ability to add in multiple AppV applications, as you'll see from a UNC path. We also support it from cloud. You could put the AppVs in blob storage. You could put them in S3 storage. You can put them in GCP storage. We'll actually download them and cache them locally as well, or run them from the network, or cache them from the network locally as well. So we have all the different options to deliver the application. We've even modernized the delivery of an AppV from cloud resources, which AppV cannot do on its own unless you're using something like Intune or something else to do it. And then we support publishing and removing and local caching from network. And then we also support any XML preferences you might have set up for deployment options for machine configurations or for user configurations. And so in this scenario, we've updated our config. We're going to deploy the configuration to the network. And then we're going to log in as the user with those set of applications coming from the ProfileUnity console. And so we're going through, and what we don't do, by the way, is we don't use the PowerShell commandlets for AppV. We use all the internal APIs. So PowerShell could be disabled in your environment. Some environments do that, and AppV for us would still work. We don't use the PowerShell commandlets. So we're pretty excited about how that all worked out over time as well. So here's all the AppVs that we saw within the console of the ProfileUnity side, and we're delivering those same AppVs pretty instantaneously and delivering them really quickly in the environment. So I'm going to do a properties on this shortcut so you can kind of see it's got the AppV root folder, and if you've ever seen an AppV shortcut, they're very specific in how they launch. And so that's again, like Jason Smith said, we use small apps to keep things rolling. Larger applications can take longer for whatever technology. And so that those applications are delivered. We could deliver these to laptops. We could deliver them to AVD, multi-user devices. Any operating system where AppV is supported, we can deliver those apps.
Yep. So that one again is taking the place of AppV server. It's running native AppVs. This is not FlexApp. This is ProfileUnity deploying AppVs. Why would a company want to do that instead of going to FlexApp?
Well, I think if you haven't had a chance to convert those over, you might continue with the AppVs. Maybe the isolation mode is more rigid for that application. You still need it for some reason, but at the end of the day, we haven't seen anybody, because again, all this AppV technology has existed for us for many years, and we have many customers converting on a regular basis with high success rates and kind of moving completely off AppV. I haven't heard yet, outside of the isolated use case, which we just now solved, why you would stick with AppV going forward.
Yeah. Well, we give you an off ramp, right? And so you can day one say, look, we don't want to convert those yet. Let's just deploy them, and that works. And the sequencer and the client are still around. Over time, you probably want to centralize them over on FlexApp because you're going to get faster performance out of and more flexibility
Well, your
out of the.
UAT, right? User
Yep.
acceptance testing. You know that these App-Vs work as is. It's a much quicker user acceptance testing for a different technology to deliver the same core
Yep.
App-V, and then you can work in the background to then convert them and do a little bit more acceptance testing on the FlexApp side because you've changed technologies, right?
Yep.
So you can get that off ramp and kind of start building that off ramp, and then you can take it once you're ready.
Yeah. All right. Great. Sure that calls some questions. We'll get to the questions here in a moment. And then this next one. Is this the one we already shown this use case?
Yeah, but this one's actually a good one though because it shows mass conversion of FlexApps and
Oh, great.
and the desktop experience.
Okay.
So this is very similar to the first video, but it's showing mass conversion of those exact same App-Vs that you saw that were delivered to that user. It's the use case of I've delivered those App-Vs with ProfileUnity. I'm building my off-ramp. I'm getting my feet underneath me. And now I'm ready to convert, start testing those conversions. So I can go into my App-V section, select all of these at mass because you saw a lot of applications on that user's desktop, and I can start the conversion process. So as you'll see, it'll start moving through all of these App-Vs. And so we're going to go to the file share path so you can kind of see all the App-Vs that are going to start being converted over into my FlexApp directory. And this would work to the cloud as well. I could put FlexApps on the cloud. I could have App-Vs on a UNC path. I can convert them to S3 blob storage or GCP buckets up in the cloud as well. So you'll see these directories and the applications just start popping in and showing up and doing the conversion process. Again, we're going in and cleaning up anything that may have gotten captured incorrectly that maybe is operating system noise. We're pulling that out of the applications and that'll shrink the size. That gets rid of a lot of complexity because we don't know how they were captured 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years ago at the end of the day. So these are nice and clean applications that are going to run well and perform well. We just clean them up along the way because we been doing this for 14 years on delivering applications this way in FlexApp. We know parts of the application capture routine that shouldn't be put back into the operating system because it's operating system specific noise that accidentally got captured. So we're applying that same technique to the conversion process, and that's why our success rate is so high from our customers, and we're super excited about how that's gone in the field. So this is going to go. You could skip forward a little bit, Smith, if you wanted to through some of these. It's the same process. Um, it'll jump forward just a little bit. Yep, now we're rolling back the machine automatically, and now we're going to show the assignment of those same applications. We have those applications delivered under App-V. They're now being disabled. I disable them here. So again, this is the whole lifecycle management from existing App-Vs managed with ProfileUnity and Management Console and Client, and then delivering those same converted App-V applications into FlexApp. So I'm bringing all of these in, and now I'm just going to click Save. All these different features and functions I could talk about for hours that we have with FlexApp, but we'll just leave the basics enabled. And now I'm going to deploy that configuration and log in as that same user that had those same App-V applications delivered. The user is no wiser. They have no idea that the applications went from full isolation, locking them up into a bubble, moved to nice and clean and easy applications that can talk to each other, talk to the operating system, and be delivered to the user. The same shortcuts and everything. And we'll show the shortcut here to show you that it's a native program files application. Is where the applications are coming from. Again, like Jason Smith said earlier, you have an application that looks like it's in program files, like looks like it's in the 7-zip folder, but it's really on a VHDX, where that VHDX is local, on the network, in the cloud, block caching, on demand, or isolated. It's all the same at the end of the day. So that's that demo.
Great. Let's see what questions we have before we jump into the grand finale here for demos. Robin says, what does launching a background sandbox do for performance? We already did that one, right? So
Yep.
Also asks, are there any limits to the number of sandbox isolated apps that you may run on a desktop?
No, I don't think there is. I mean, if you had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 apps you want to put into the sandbox, that wouldn't be a problem. Obviously, the more applications you isolate, the more overhead there could be. Isolation always has an overhead. There's always a cost to it versus, layering where there's very little overhead. So the same applies to us here with the sandbox.
And then a follow-up question, same person asked, App-V delivered at login, log on usually. Is on demand also possible for App-V packages?
So we don't have on demand for App-V. We're just delivering them at login today. That is a request we have out there. It'll be interesting to see,
If we converted them to FlexApp, I guess.
If they convert to FlexApp, then you would have the click to layer technology to deliver on demand for sure. So I think that's where we kind of like, do we want to add that kind of functionality on a dying technology? Or are customers just going to convert because the success rate is so high, both on the conversion and FlexApp itself?
All right, we're caught up on the questions.
We do
So,
have another question
we do?
from Paul. What are the limitations when converting an App-V app that relies on virtualized services?
I don't think there is any that we've seen. The services come over, we lay them down like normal. I mean, a service is really just a registry entry at the end of the day. So whether it's fonts, drivers, services, whatever App-V can capture, and we've gone even as far as to take the scripts and convert them over to FlexApp scripts as well from App-V. Sometimes some of those techniques are no longer needed on conversion, but we haven't seen any limitations at this point with any of those things.
Great. All right, so ProfileUnity and FlexApp isolation, the sandbox mode demo is next here, and this is the new tech from us. That'll be in 6.9.5.
Yep. So here we're going into the ProfileUnity console, and again, showing it's literally just a checkbox inside of any FlexApp that you're looking to isolate. So I can go in and I can bring in these two open office applications. One is going to be isolated, one is not. They would share the exact same directory structure, even though they're different versions on the operating system. And so they would never be able to coexist. One would replace the other in a heartbeat. They could just, it's not going to happen. And so with this scenario, I'm going to log in for the user, and one application is going to be isolated and one is not. And you'll see the difference here in a second too. So we're going to log in really quickly into the desktop. And then now all the Flex apps are being activated. The Flex app that is being natively layered down to the operating system with Flex app, and then with isolation. So they both get a shortcut right away. The user can access the isolated Flex app pretty much right away. Now, if they open it first thing, there'll be a slight delay because we're building up the sandbox, we're prepping the sandbox, we're getting the application activated in the sandbox. So all the things are happening. So I've opened this ASF version of OpenOffice 4, which is not isolated. That's the version that is not. Now I'm going to open up the version that is isolated. And so if the user opens it up prior to everything being prepped, installed, and ready and activated inside the sandbox, they get a little bit of a window telling them to wait. It's powered by us, and it's coming up. So everything's being prepped and it's communicating. And now you'll see there's a FlexApp isolation client. That is our protocol client, basically. And what you see there is our protocol. Streaming that application from the sandbox. You're not seeing a start menu. You're not seeing, the things you would see with a full desktop window. And these applications are existing side by side, and they both can access my documents and documents folder and OneDrive, and all those things are automatically mapped in, for the user to access those files and modify those files. When you access a UNC path from inside the sandbox or any kind of resources, it's actually not, in that scenario, it's not the user in the sandbox touching those resources. It's actually passing it back to the host operating system, and it's as the user currently logged in. And that's why their home directory or file share access still works and still functions without any kind of permissions or anything like that, because it's using the main user permissions to do that. So again, compatibility is completely high. Cut and paste works. Yeah, absolutely. Cut and paste is one thing that is working. That was, we got to have the basics. We can't create a protocol in 2026 and 25 and not have copy and paste. And yeah, copy and paste does work with the protocols. Well, you can play videos. High fidelity videos can be played as well if you needed to for training purposes, if you had an app or something that was isolated for some reason. And so all the printers are redirected automatically. So your printers work, and you could print to PDF. You could save that PDF if there's a PDF printer inside the Flex app that got captured, or some kind of documents PDF or something like that, document printer. All those printers would work, and you'd be able to save that output of those printers into your OneDrive or your home directory. Your documents folder is automatically mapped. at the end of the day. So, I mean, from an end user perspective, we covered a lot of the nuts and bolts of the sandbox itself, but from an end user perspective, it's pretty seamless. The only thing they see is that little banner up top. But if they treat the application like normal and use the normal maximize, minimize, everything works like normal and functions like normal within the sandbox client.
It's good. So those that aren't familiar with Windows Sandbox, they may be thinking, well, what is this, additional licenses of Windows we have to purchase or something like that, right? But this is embedded in Windows 11 and forward, right?
It is. It's embedded in Professional and Forward. Professional and Enterprise all have the sandbox. And Windows 11 multi-user AVD does work as well and is fully supported. So you can have multiple users on the same AVD session, isolating the same or different applications, and nobody's the wiser.
There's no VMs to build.
Correct. No
Right.
VMs to build. Remember, the sandbox is a direct copy on write fork of the main operating system. That's why it's so fast and comes up kind of so instantly. You know, I definitely encourage everybody to try it on their laptops. It comes up real quick because it doesn't have to use a whole different operating system. It's based on the main operating system, and just the deltas are stored off to the side and then thrown away every time you close it.
So really, this is a modern way to isolate applications that we've not seen in the market, right?
I think this is unique because we're the first, technology, delivering applications in a high compatibility way, and then bringing in isolation to close the loop on, the use case of, hey, this application just cannot work with other apps, or I need to run two versions of the same app. Because the native way we deliver Flex apps is got high compatibility, but that doesn't solve, hey, I need two versions of the same apps, and the app itself is incompatible with itself. It can't run side by side. And so we fix that problem of the app can't run side by side, or two different types of apps just collide completely, and we want to cut them off from each other, or the host operating system installed native apps as well. And so we're the first ones to bring isolation in, but not go the route that App-V went at the end of the day. And part of the challenge with App-V was the success rate and the difficulty, because the bubble was so rigid and so hard to work with and a lot of compatibility. We went the other way around, and now we've got a containerized operating system that gives us the full compatibility we have as if it's a regular Flex app, because at the end of the day, it is a regular Flex app. The registry is the same, everything's there. Within that process is the whole operating environment I need to execute the high compatibility of Flex app isolated.
So you covered this briefly, I think, earlier. What's involved in taking a Flex app, those that are familiar with Flex app, taking that process that they know and they know is easy to invoke our packager. What's the process? It's just a checkbox, right?
It's just a checkbox in the console. It's that easy, because that tells us that, okay, this application, instead of delivering it the exact same way in the host OS, we're going to deliver it inside the sandbox OS. And there's only like a 5% difference in the mechanics that happened. Everything else is the same, and that's why the compatibility is so high with this technology.
All right. Great demo, and congrats to the whole team on this tech. And we were able to come out with modern technology, with a modern way to isolate applications that no one else in the market has touched. And while these are edge use cases these days for isolation, we have addressed it with modern technology, as said, and easier than ever, because our packaging format still holds up, and it's easy to use. The automated packaging and everything else still applies to all of that. But now if you want it fully isolated, it's a checkbox, and it's using the Windows Sandbox technology that you've already got access to as a Microsoft customer professional integrator. All right. If you haven't experienced FlexApp, you can easily try FlexApp 1, and we can perhaps put a URL down in the window there, but you see it there even on the page, info.liquidware.com/FlexApp1. We have some FlexApp packages out there. Those are not isolated. They're just the traditional core format that works for the majority of use cases out there. Slack, Teams, several others out there, 3D Pinball. You can go to that URL and you can try them right now. You can try them on your Windows machine that you have right now. They're as easy as downloading them and double clicking. It'll ask if you want FlexApp to run on that machine. You would not get that once you're in production. That's going to start the service, and that application will launch with a double click. FlexApp 1 is the tightest container format that we have out there, has everything needed, and that's the way that we can deploy those through Intune. So it's a slightly different format, also just a checkbox differential in when you're packaging up an app, but those are the ones that are the easiest to try. We like to say it's as easy as trying it over a cup of coffee, and that's where this comes from. It's that quick. Literally download it and double click and you'll be running a FlexApp. So we encourage you to try that. If you haven't seen that out there and you have questions after the webinar, you'll be able to get those there. I want to pause right now and see if we have other questions from that Andrew may have seen that I did not see.
We do have a couple, yes. Let's see. How much local resources are taken from the host VM when using isolation for a typical application?
Yeah, so CPU will vary, based on the environment. Obviously, there's a startup time and then CPU calms down. Memory is very similar. Memory will increase and then drop down. If you're running 2 or 3 applications, you can expect maybe a gig of RAM to be used for a handful of applications on a regular basis, for the isolation.
Yep,
Great.
that's very different than FlexApp. FlexApp core is native resources, same as the app.
Right.
Sometimes even more efficient.
All right, we do have, I think these other questions were covered throughout the presentation as well, so we're good. We're good to move on.
All right, great. We have the Liquidware community. If you want to join in and ask questions there, it's on Slack. The URL there, you can use your phone or smart device to take that barcode, and you'll land right on that URL to get into the Liquidware community, which we'd love to have you join. There's other questions in there in the Liquidware community beyond our product set. So if you're moving from one desktop to another, it's a great place to connect with peers.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. And like I said, recording resources all will be included in the follow-up. Thank you. Take care, and we'll see you at the next webinar.
Y'all take care.